dokie, guys. You all been excited? As I am. We got 3 minutes left, but I don't know. Maybe we could do a little bit chit chat. Tanner, wake up.
Oh, mate, I'm wide awake. How's it going?
Yeah, you know, too many people in the house. I mean, 1 minute safety distance might be some problem sometimes. Okay. Matthew, you online?
I am here to go. How are you?
Yeah. Utah Saint in the house.
Okay. I give you one thing. I give you. I don't know. Could you hear it? Was it good? Is my microphone good?
Is that your fancy new microphone that you're using?
Yeah, that's my fancy new microphone. I'm talking to a kind of sieve or something. It's like it's a black something in kind of in front of my face.
BBC quality, mate. BBC quality.
Yeah, probably, I guess Chinese, but okay, guys. I'll leave it to you. Have a nice chat.
Thank you. Thanks to the devil, as always. And Tanner, welcome. This is a real privilege.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it's awesome to be here and lovely to be back.
Awesome. Well, I don't know where you've been, but I'm glad to have you back. So this will just be kind of a free-form conversation. I have some questions for you, and you can answer what you like and don't have to answer the others. Fair enough?
Sure thing. No worries, man.
Do we need a safe word?
Umbrella.
Excellent. Noted. All right. Well, first question here. You're from Ireland, if I understand that right.
I'm actually Spanish-Irish, but I live in Scotland. I do have dual citizenship with, so I'm a British citizen and an Irish citizen, but I live in Scotland.
You're in Scotland and Spanish-Irish. I'd never heard of that. What is that?
Yeah, I mean that's breaking news. I don't think I've ever really necessarily mentioned it to the community, but yeah, that's my genetic lineage. But I live just about an hour south of Edinburgh, in Bonnie, Scotland.
Bonnie, Scotland. That's beautiful. And so, if your genetic background is Spanish, do you speak Spanish?
No, I don't. I don't speak Gaelic either, which is the Scottish language, or Gaelic, which is the Irish dialect of the same language. No, I'm. Say again, DC.
Braveheart dialect, huh?
Yeah, I mean, well, it's interesting because actually, even modern Scots is technically a separate language to English, and I can speak that, but I mean, I can't speak the the old Gaelic language. Like, in fact, Loxley, who lives in Wales, is absolutely fluent in Welsh, which is a really complicated language. But I'm linguistically simpler. But if I heard you say Scotland in wow, like revered tones there, Matt, and honestly, like Utah sounds just as exotic to me,
It is the home of the Utah Saints. That was.
I really don't think it is. I think that's Brixton or somewhere in London. But but that's what anybody. Yeah. So the background on this is when Matt earlier mentioned to me that he's in Utah. I said anybody British of about my age is going to remember the word Utah for Utah Saints, the rave band from the early 90s. That's I think the first thing most people of a certain age in Britain would think of when they hear Utah.
I think that's absolutely fantastic because around here, people hear Utah, they think Mormons, which is the opposite of a rave band. But
right. No, I mean, I don't have any association there at all. I don't think that.
That's fantastic. I'm going to go with rave band. That I like that. So yeah, I guess, and then we'll drop this topic and head more into you. But that's interesting. So my genetic background, my last name is Evans, and so my genetic background is Welsh. I have no idea how much, and I can't speak Welsh to save my life. So it would be lovely to hear Loxley speak some Welsh at some point.
Well, he'd be absolutely delighted to. Is he on channel? I don't see him. I think he's having a remote like tabletop RPG night with some friends via. I'm not sure if they're using Skype or what. Knowing him, he's probably written a platform just for the purpose by now.
Tabletop RPG. I absolutely love this. You live truly a magical world. The devs. You exist in this ethereal realm. Is how it feels to me. So back here, kind of going to your background. What is your educational background? Where do you come up from?
So I did a BSc, Bachelor's in Science at Nottingham Trent University, graduated 2001. But already for a few years by then, I'd been coding. Like I'm 41, and I sort of consider myself to have been coding about 30 years. I was on the periphery of the demo scene in the 90s, predominantly on Amiga. And much more recently, like within the last kind of 5 to 7 years, I've had a few more serious demo scene releases on these old platforms, which is a really awesome thing to return to, and also a really nice way to unwind after working on really complex systems like crypto with many layers of abstraction. It's really therapeutic to get back to the simple machines of my youth. So after 2001, so when I was at uni, I started an ISP called SmokeJet to just kind of pay my way through university, really. And this was in the days when British Telecom, the main UK telecom provider, made it quite easy to set up as a VISP, a virtual ISP, and you would have your own local rate phone number, which would lead to a modem bank that was completely controlled by them. But you got call revenue share, right? So the more you could promote your own modem bank, the better you could do. And so I kind of formed this little bedroom company to try and both do that and sell websites to people using that service. And that's how I got started, really. And since then, my day job has been largely building websites, from simple stuff, especially in the early days, through to extranets, social media networks, e-commerce stuff, and pretty much everything. And that's still where I do actually have a day job, and that's still where that focus is today. But I've done many other things in the meantime. I've worked on some really low-level graphics rendering stuff as a particular research interest. Been involved in cryptocurrency in various forms since late 2012, early 2013, I think. I've also done, Loxley and I have actually been involved in a few projects together in the past, including a radio-based bulletin board system that we had big hopes of being able to deploy this thing kind of by throwing transceivers over the border into oppressed countries and stuff like that. So I've done a reasonable range of stuff, but throughout it all, I've pretty much hung on to building websites as a day job. I don't know if that's way more rambling than you wanted, but there you go.
No, it's exactly what I wanted. You've laid out quite the history here. So websites as your day job. I wanted to return to a few things you said there. You said that graphics rendering is a hobby for you. I understand that mainly from the realm of simulations, right? Explain more about graphics.
Sure. I mean, you'll know exactly what I mean coming from a simulation background, because I'm just talking about real-time stuff, right? So no offline. So one of the things I've been heavily involved in is building 4KB intros, which, if that means anything to you, the chances are you've heard of the demo scene, and I've probably heard of it.
It means nothing to me, but I'm all in.
Okay, so we have to go way back and give you some history. So in the late 80s and early 90s, well, people needed their pirated games, okay? But there wasn't really so much...
Always.
Right? So, you know, in the very, very early days, there wasn't really any copy protection, and you could just copy a floppy, and that was all good. But as things went on, companies realized that this was all a little bit too easy. So copy protection.
Tana, explain the newbies what is a floppy.
I think
that dates me. I immediately knew a floppy. I'm 48.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not about to explain that. I'm going to leave that as an exercise to the listener.
Well, welcome to Google. To know what Google floppy, but make sure your porn filter's on.
The European, what was it, ELSPA, the European Leisure Software Publishers Association, at one point had an anti-piracy tagline, which was "Don't copy that floppy." But that didn't do much to the people. So anyway, like, I'm going to need to condense this, otherwise, you know, this is 2 hours of explanation. So I'm going to crack on. So as copy protection started to be applied, this was particularly on the C64, right? I know you Americans were big on your Commodore 64.
I had a C21.
Ooh, fancy pants. Well, actually, is that even fancy pants? I didn't really know.
No, it's less. Actually, it's less.
Yeah, you can tell because the number.
The FC20 was previous before the C64. I got it for my 14th birthday.
Mine was gas powered, but please do crack on.
All right. Well, so as soon as copy protection started to be applied to games, right, this instantly created a kind of competition amongst people to remove the copy protection. And what you found was people forming into groups in order to crack the copy protection. And as soon as that happened, there was a real kind of competitive element between these groups. This, of course, gave birth to the modern wares scene, which, you know, I'm in no way associated with. Usual disclaimers, blah, blah, blah. But where this intersects with the demo scene is that very quickly in the evolution of this, the crackers who were removing the copy protection wanted a way to show off to both the other cracking groups, but also the kind of end users of their cracked software, right? So they would start putting increasingly complex graphical intros on the front of the games. And I'm sure, like, if any of you were gaming in the late 80s, the early 90s, swapping floppies in the playground, or indeed, like these days, you know, if you're getting into Amiga and you're going and downloading floppy images from ROM sites, you're going to be seeing an awful lot of these crack intros on the front of the games. And a lot of times, especially kind of after this had been going on a couple of years, and certainly after the Amiga came out, the intros actually became a lot more impressive than the games in a lot of ways. Certainly doing far more complicated stuff with far fewer pre-calculated assets. Okay, and this is where I'm getting into the simulation thing gradually. So in the days of an Amiga, if you wanted to add a nice fancy intro with a scroller message and some graphical effects saying, hey, you know, XYZ cracked this game and the rest of you are lame and suck and we're elite. If you wanted to do that, you only had maybe, you know, 4 or 5 kilobytes on the disk free in order to implement this whole thing. So, you know, you're not going to be using any, you're definitely not going to be using any pre-recorded music. Instead, you might include a tiny synthesizer that you've coded yourself and a bunch of notes for it to play. You know, and you're definitely not going to be using any kind of graphical assets. You're going to have to procedurally generate pretty much everything as you go along. You're maybe going to be able to fit enough graphics to make a nice big bitmap font, okay? But everything else is going to be real time. So you had this culture of teenage hackers coming up with real time graphical effects. And from the very earliest days, from the Amiga days, in a lot of cases, especially in terms of technique and in terms of how they were finding new ways to wring extra power out of the machines, a lot of the techniques that you first saw in intros would end up in next year's mainstream games, right? So it didn't take...
And So the game developers would steal the intros of these
exactly,
teenage
exactly, or at least see some rendering technique. Like on the Amiga specifically, you've kind of got this holy trinity of 3 custom chips, which work together to enable fantastic things. And there were just so many possible combinations of tasks that you could put this set of hardware to, that it was almost inevitable that teenage hackers are going to be able to come up with new and innovative stuff that's going to be really useful to professional game developers. And that's exactly what happened.
This is almost like you get in the music scene, the music promoters taking the teenage lingo, right, and using it for their own marketing purposes. That's what's happening here in the game.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And it's also a really good example of like genuine outsider art being kind of enveloped by the mainstream, which is, the sociological aspects are also really fascinating. So what happened after not very much time at all was the kind of pure cracking scene split in two, and you would have, I'm talking about groups like TRSI, Razor 1911. Some of these names might mean something to you if you're around at the time. Otherwise, they probably won't. But what would happen, and I'm talking by about 92, 93, the groups would start to split into completely separate divisions. There would be the cracking division, the wares division, and then the artistic division called the demo division. And the demo team would be responsible for coming up with the intros that were going to go on the games the crackers cracked. And before long, the huge European warehouse parties, the copy parties, where people used to just come together in order to exchange software physically, because the bulletin boards were usable, but not really kind of what you would want to do for mass transfer, or if you wanted to be able to trade an entire collection with somebody, you would need to go to a copy party. So before long, these copy parties,
and these were, I've never heard of these, but these were all floppy disks, because I'm a man of the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and they would bring their floppies to these parties that are raves as well.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I mean, the rave aspect kind of grew more after copy parties had split into pure demo parties. And at demo parties, the wares focus is removed, for one thing, which means the police aren't then going to send too many plainclothes officers to your party in order to keep an eye on things, and you're going to be able to have a lot more of a party in a rave. But it also means that all the different demo crews are able to have categorized compos and have their entries shown on a big screen with an absolutely badass sound system, and voted for in real time by all the participants. So it's a real artistic meets technical, unique kind of crossover where you're absolutely judged by your peers in an extremely elitist environment. So this,
and it's at a rate, this is 60s beat poets, right, updated for the 90s with these cracker crews. That is awesome. How many people are we talking here?
Well, if you look up Revision Party and ignore their rather lame online only offering this year, because of course Corona, this is one of the older parties. This is there's been a demo scene Easter party in Germany for many years, and this particular incarnation of it's always over Easter weekend, has been going for there was just a major birthday, about either 15 or 20 was it, the recent birthday, I'm not sure, but Revision is certainly one of the bigger, and that's about 4,000 attendees in Cologne in Germany, which is an absolutely fantastic city to visit.
I lived in Frankfurt from 91 to 93.
Oh,
but this,
lovely.
what you're
you were right in the midst of it. It was happening right next to you, Matt. Honestly, that was Frankfurt at the time. There were many demo groups and cracking groups.
Wow. Well, this I had no idea about any of this, and wow.
It's honestly the last true computer underground, and it's a beautiful thing, and people are still developing for those old machines, the Amigas, that they got into the scene to develop for in the first place. But also there's much more modern categories, like how much can you wring out of, and again, this is me getting back to your simulation interest, how much wow factor can you get out of a 4 kilobyte executable, okay, on modern hardware? So Windows 10, let's say it's got 2080 in it, but I only have 4 kilobytes of space to play with. Like, what can I do in that? Can I create a world? Can I show you a world with visuals and music running on your graphics card, completely dynamic, completely procedurally generated? And that's something that I just find, oh man, sexy as hell. So that's the demo scene stuff that I'm into. I'll paste you some of my stuff.
I would love to see it.
Yeah.
Like I said, I mean, it's a whole new world, blowing my mind right here.
I'll be really happy to show you some of my stuff. I'm not going to start spamming through at links on general right now, but I'll drop you a couple.
Ease us into it. So, you know, you say there's no more computer underground, and yet, would you call crypto kind of an underground? I mean, it is mainstream, but fringe, I guess.
I mean, Matt, you're a very well-informed guy, and you know, the demo scene is like, oh wow, this is the thing. I would say it's it's the most underground of the undergrounds, and I would say crypto certainly has kind of all the. I don't know if it's an underground. It's certainly a clique. You know, it has its own jargon, its own lingo. I would like to think it's got its own etiquette, but there's really sod all of that. But it's certainly its own thing for sure.
Very true, and that's a great point, because I hadn't heard a thing about this, so that's fair. Crypto is more known than demo scene, at least to me. So how did you and Loxley and Scarlett and Roger come together?
Oh boy, okay. So who did I meet first out of the 4? Well, certainly Scar's by far the most recent. Roger and I met on 11 meter, like 27 megahertz radio in about 2006, 2007, I would think. I don't know if you know this, if you know what I mean by 11 meters, but it's kind of, you know, amateur radio, right?
I do.
So these days, I also have an amateur radio license, but back in those days, I used to really, really enjoy 11 meters, which is the kind of the international pirate band, where everything's kind of a blind eye is turned towards unlicensed operators, and you can get a real taste of being able to talk to the world with very, very simple equipment and, you know, a bit of wire strung out of your window, which is cool. Hey,
that's almost magic.
Yeah, it's really, really magical. You know, I tickle a few electrons in a piece of wire over here, and on the other side of the world, you know, somebody else's piece of wire, electrons in that wire tickle in sympathy. It's magical. It really is amazing. I love that. So of course, you know, this is going to attract people of a certain geeky persuasion and a certain mental outlook. So it's very common to make really good friends amongst radio operators, and that's how Roger and I initially met. And a few years, we did a couple of little projects like the radio bulletin board I was talking about. That was before we got into crypto, and it was him who, I think we'd fallen out of touch for a couple of years. We'd done a couple of things, then fallen out of touch. And in about 2012, 2013, he mid 2012, he said, hey, you should really have a look at this Bitcoin thing, and we've been interested in that and involved in that ever since. Around 2007, 2008, I think, I was playing guitar in a metal band. I'm not going to say the name because there's too much of it online. And no, I don't mind talking about music stuff and metal bands, and I'm happy to drop links to the good ones, but this wasn't the best one, so let's just let it go. But we lost our drummer, and we were auditioning drummers. Loxley became the drummer, and he's absolutely phenomenal. You know, is he on channel? Because I don't want him to hear this. No, he's not. He's honestly the best drummer I've ever had the pleasure of playing with. And we became firm friends, and he was a couple of years younger than me, was already in the industry doing AI stuff and some computer vision stuff with the I don't want to, you know, kind of dox him too much, but he was working on some cool shit already. And we started to do random projects and random demo scene stuff together fairly soon after meeting, but didn't work any crypto stuff together until we started LCC.
So you had Roger going back to 2007, and then 2011, 2012, he's like, check out Bitcoin. But then Loxley's just drumming for your metal band till 2018.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. We were certainly working on other projects, Loxley and I, but none of them were crypto related or anything kind of, you know, particularly big that it's worth mentioning that was released or anything. But certainly we were winning demo scene awards for sure. He was heavily involved in that side of things with me.
Well, yeah, I'm excited to see you're. I'm assuming going to post your award-winning demo scene. I guess, are they clips or they're?
Yeah, I mean, so the thing with the 4 kilobyte executables particularly, and this is, you know, where the disclaimers start, is that generally, so long as it runs at the party, nobody gives a toss if it still runs after the next Windows update 2 months later. So I would say I've got a really good success rate with these. So like in several cases, you're going to be able to download them, run them. So long as you've got, you know, a 1080 or so, you're going to be able to run them in real time. And, you know, hopefully you'll be like, I can't believe this. I don't believe this executable is only 4K. I'm going to disconnect my machine from the internet so I can rule out any shenanigans and stuff like that. And hopefully you see like, wow, because honestly, if you watch a video, all you're watching is a video of something that doesn't look as good as something that's offline rendered, okay? And it kind of almost defeats the purpose of watching a real-time thing in a video. But that being said, because of the whole, especially with the modern Windows stuff, right? This is an absolute gripe of mine. If I write a demo for an Amiga, it's going to run on an Amiga in 10 years from now, 20 years from now. I'm very much enjoy working on Vectrex, the Vector console released in 1982. Now, the things I write for that will run on an original 1982 one, they'll run today, and they'll run on one in another 40 years. It's not a problem. Whereas with Windows...
This is durable shit.
Yeah, exactly. And it's legacy, man. And just because of that, it's legacy in a way that writing this kind of stuff for Windows, I mean, it's so ephemeral. So for that reason... And very sadly, like a lot of the most bleeding edge and impressive demos, you end up watching on a YouTube video capture. But I do like to think that our stuff, by which I mean Loxley's and mine, has better longevity than most. And in most cases, our 4Ks certainly do keep running.
That's epic. So let me ask you this. I'm jumping a little bit. Can we talk about Coinye?
Oh God, you're really doxing me. Yeah, sure we can, absolutely. Yeah, we can talk about Coinye.
The stay umbrella, you don't have to.
Say again.
I need to shout umbrella. I'm cool with it. I was just curious.
No, I don't. Yeah, I can tell you a certain amount.
So you had created a gambling den for Coinye, which was essentially a mock cryptocurrency of Kanye West.
Yes, I can answer yes to that. I'd love to be able to provide more background, but that is difficult.
And that's
yes, no, that's the case. Let's say, I mean, a provably fair casino for Kanye. That's certainly something that we owned. Yeah.
That is so when you know, because this is interesting. When LCC first came out, you know, this is 2018. My chiropractor had introduced me to cryptocurrency. So this is how into cryptocurrency I was.
Is he holding LCC?
He isn't, which, you know, is a personal heartbreak of mine. He has Bitcoin, but and I guess assorted other altcoins, but no LCC. But I'm not done yet. He will eventually own. So anyway, like, you know, this LCC comes up. You know, what's this? Charlie's calling it a scam. And, you know, you don't have your actual names attached to the project. And, you know, I'm just doing all my research. And then at some point you disclosed your name, all 4 of you. And that's when I was like, what is this Coinier? And I'll be honest, I don't know much about crypto or any of the other here, but you kind of won my heart at that point. I'm like, I like these guys. I'm going to follow.
Oh man, all the original depositions and such, you can see it on. They're still up on Scribed, and if you get the right search, you'll find them. It's hilarious, right? It was all fun and games in the early days when I was just John Doe on these documents, and then suddenly one day I became Ian Craig, and that was a little bit more humbling.
Yeah, no, I can't relate entirely, but I have been in instances where you're just having a good time and suddenly it gets very real. You're like, oh shit.
Yeah, and I mean, our initial response was less than ideal. I mean, offering Kanye West's lawyers free house credit on our casino probably wasn't the best idea.
Well, that's when you kind of won me over. I'm like, I really like.
Did you see the thing about the salmon sandwich?
No. What was that?
Oh God! I didn't send this particular communication. I won't identify the idiot who did, but it was signed as me. And it said, we'll shut the casino down immediately if you send a salmon sandwich by airmail to XYZ address. And it just, oh, dearie me. It's a really, really stupid. I mean, it was. I'd like to say I was young and stupid, but I was younger. That's true.
Well,
and it was. I didn't send that. So.
And you play with the devil, and sometimes you get burned.
What about me? What about me?
The devil's always listening. That's what I love about the devil. So now we get to 2018. You, Loxley, Roger, Scarlett come together to make LCC.
Well, to do a project. I mean, we came together to do a project and started casting around for projects to do. And on the one hand, it starts as like a stupid offhand kind of, hey, wouldn't it be funny to fork Litecoin back to SHA-256, like, chortle. But then looking around, hang on a sec, SHA-256, and look through the first 4 or 5 pages of CoinMarketCap, and shit, there really isn't any hash destination beyond Bitcoin. That is your hash destination. And I know people have got USB miners that just aren't competitive anymore, sat around in cupboards doing nothing because there's nothing they can be used for efficiently. So what started as one of those haha, let's do this, very quickly became, oh wow, this actually does have a use case. So that's what we did. I won't bother telling you about the projects that we thought about and discounted. But I will say, it wasn't, when we came together, we weren't necessarily 100% sold on doing something in crypto. I think I certainly remember walking down a street in Riga, the three of us, sorry, this being Roger and Loxley and myself, kind of identifying the major things in the world that we thought were interesting and worth pursuing at this time. And those were AI, virtual reality, crypto, and space. Loxley already had a bit of experience in, like, decent industrial experience in space and in AI. Roger and I had a bit in crypto. I had a bit in virtual reality. And we kind of coalesced around a crypto project anyway. I think you might have cut out there, Matt. I lost you. Nice. Yeah, I was just saying the kind of broader areas that we were looking at when we first formed the team with the intention of doing something were AI, virtual reality, space, and crypto.
And you've at least brought space, when you shot space.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And you say Loxley has some industrial experience in.
Yeah, he does. And if he was here, I would get him to tell you as much as he can. Like, I don't know how much I can tell you just because I don't know, like, how NDA based the projects he was involved on were. But I mean, they were certainly really cool. I can tell you that he's done some cool shit.
And that almost goes without saying. You know, where you as an aside, oh yes, industrial experience in space, which that's the first time I've known anybody, even at a remove, that can claim that.
I don't mean, you know, he's don't get me wrong, he certainly hasn't gone into space and done an EVA and held a welding torch, but I believe that I really don't know how much I can say. I believe some of his software has made it beyond the gravity well. Let's put
well, and LCC has made it beyond. Beyond.
I mean, you know, to a point. Like I do regard us as having been to the edge of space on that mission. Certainly. Is it space? No, but I mean, it's still absolutely cool. That was
I agree.
My 40th birthday present to myself. That flight, in fact.
Well, I didn't know that. Happy birthday! When Ring launched its main coin, that was my birthday, March 14th. So, you know, this
perfect.
So let me ask you. You know, as we get into LCC, you get going, you get 51% attacked. You know, there in the summer of 2018. Can you kind of talk about what that looked like on your end when this happened, and how you turned that disaster?
Is it just me, or does somebody else doesn't hear anything?
Radio check. Do you hear me?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Now I hear you. I don't know if you heard my question. Just how you turned the disaster of the summer of 2018 into the Hive, kind of what the behind the scenes were.
So yeah, hindsight is a wonderful thing, okay? But like after it happened and we were analyzing it and realized it's just a massive influx of hash power, then the most important fact becomes if you have a coin where your mining algorithm is a mining algorithm that a lot of hardware exists for out in the world that isn't currently mining your coin, you have a big problem because at any moment something can come along and put an absolute massive amount of hash power onto your network, therefore breaking consensus. So we realized that there was no way we could stick with a pure SHA-256 proof of work coin. So the most obvious thing to do really is to change the proof of work algorithm. All of the SHA-256 hardware out there, you know, it's specialized hardware, it's ASICs, they can't do anything else. You only need to change the algorithm up a little bit and you've locked out all of these ASIC miners. So why not do that? Well, LCC had a core mission statement that we were going to be the best in breed SHA-256 alternative destination that wasn't Bitcoin. Okay, we're a home for all your elderly SHA-256 mining hardware. So we wanted to find something that we could do that maintained that core design goal. So that means that anything that we did, we had to allow completely conventional, normal SHA-256 hardware going forward. We also had to not impose any stupid rules on it. So we couldn't do anything where we were going to force an alternation of different block types, because that means the owners of that SHA-256 hardware are going to spend some of their time standing idle, right? Waiting for another opportunity to mine. Whereas we want them to just be able to mine as normal. So we realized that we would have to include a different, like an additional dimension to mining, so that at minimum, this means that you're going to need to be able to 51% multiple kind of resource dimensions, if you like, in order to be able to attack the coin. And proof of stake, okay, is the most obvious one, but there's an awful lot of problems with it. I won't go too into that, but we really wanted to kind of find something new, and we went through a couple of interesting kind of variations of proof of stake before arriving at exactly the Hive concept. One that was stake qualified proof of work, which was a lovely idea that Scarlett had actually, and we got as far as implementing that. That would be, you could start a coin based on that today if you wanted. I think we had it really mature, but it's again brought up a bunch of philosophical issues and deeper problems that I would be much better equipped to explain if I wasn't 3 beers deep. So I'll try and keep the technical stuff light.
Late at night, 3 beers deep. That's fair.
And so Hive kind of was born, and instantly, you know, our whole focus really shifted from being the best SHA-256 coin to being we're the coin with Hive. That was the new USP.
The new USP.
Yeah, sorry, the unique selling point, the main hook, if you like.
Yes, and I've seen that shift, and I noticed, and I can't remember whether this was last fall or the fall prior, but you announced a partnership, a collaboration with a CAIM is what I call it, but it's the medical records, international medical records. What's happening?
Right. Do we have a Roger? Because I'd really like to hand this off to him, as he's the main liaison with those awesome dudes, but he's not.
He's got the moon.
So I'll give you a small overview. We originally paired up to work alongside those guys with on a white paper about potential blockchain applications in the medical field. And the most obvious one that we all kind of thought was the best use case was empowering people to hold their own medical records in a secure way, which means that you really ease friction of communicating these records between medical providers in terms of trust, in terms of the actual communications tech and all this stuff. It's kind of a good.
Yes, I find that beyond exciting.
So that's really cool. So we had a paper published with them in the American Journal of Trauma Medicine, possibly. I really don't remember the exact journal, but you can go and read the paper. It's linked on the main LitecoinCash
Yes, I've
website.
read great paper.
One of the dudes on the Hive side was interested in coming up with, and again, I don't remember the precise acronym for the fledgling organization that they've set up and that we're part of. But the whole idea of the kind of crypto affiliations thing, that society that they've set up, is to kind of give an inner circle of coin devs. So I need to hark back to 2013, 2014, where you could go on IRC and there were certain channels where all of the coin devs from all of the different altcoins would be in the same room, right? So you could freely discuss issues that affected multiple coins. And there was a useful, very generous, friendly inner circle of competent devs. Now, things are all a lot more cutthroat these days, and you don't really see that. It's kind of, it's very hard for me as lead dev on our projects to be able to go and stop into another coin's Discord and say, hey, it's Tanner from LCC, you know, just wanted to chat with your lead dev. And in 9 times out of 10, it's
not going to.
There's like a level of removal, okay, between the dev and their sort of their I guess first level support staff or what have you. But there's just this disparity and a natural distrust rather than a natural mutual respect. And there's certain circumstances, and the most common thing I'm thinking of here is look at certain upstream vulnerabilities that happen in the Bitcoin code base, and that all the alts typically have to scramble to fix some upstream bug. If there was a really good, honestly, equivalent of that IRC inner circle channel from back in those days, it would be just beneficial to everybody to be able to discuss kind of solving these issues. Sort of an emergency response team for all the crypto devs, if you like. So I believe his name is Stan, our contact at ASIC, was involved in setting up this organization, of which we're a part, along with about a dozen other crypto developers. We're hoping to expand it, get a lot more people on board. So yes, and I apologize there hasn't been any recent news about that. We'll try and bring you a bit more shared content from us plus them as soon as possible.
That's great, and I appreciate you taking a few minutes to talk about that. So, looking to the future here, Fred had mentioned last week that the devs are coming up with a business plan and a charter for community collaboration. You'd mentioned in the interview last year in May that you'd hope companies and individuals would build projects on top of LCC, and now we have Ring, and I've seen the the roadmap for Ring. You're rolling out more opportunities for projects to come on. Rabtai had made the Hive pool, and that's obviously a successful community collaboration project. What are some other projects you're hoping that the LCC and Ring communities could take up?
Firstly, I've also got to give big props to Tipsy and its developer OzKind.
Oh yes,
like this is so cool. I mean, this is absolutely gratifying. Like, both those guys, to my knowledge, both of those teams, this is their first production project on top of a crypto, and I take it as an absolute compliment that they choose to, start building out on us. And of course, in both cases, well, with Rabtai, he needs more coins to adopt Hive first, but in order to scale,
yes.
But with Tipsy, has got OzKind, can potentially take that to any crypto Discord and really scale out a long way, which is awesome. So it's brilliant.
So, and I guess I hadn't known that. So Tipsy isn't a feature of Discord. This is a creation of OzKind. No,
absolutely. It's completely, and you would think, hey, this has got to be some big thing, or at least some massive, if not something that we pay for and license, then at least some huge open project. No, that's been built completely in-house by our very own OzKind.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
So yeah, and that's so gratifying. And of course, to be able to I don't want to say mentorship, but to be able to be on hand to give a sanity check and to assist with this sort of stuff, I like to think makes us more approachable than a lot of other projects who don't realize that you have to absolutely adore your downstreams. And this is why I feel the same if somebody comes along and says, if I get PM, hey, I'm forking your code base, I'm launching a new Hive coin. Well, I am going to sanity check their code for them, because I kind of regard it to, Peercoin was the
I've
first
heard of it.
proof of stake. Okay, so this was the first proof of stake coin, and their code, which in its early iterations honestly was pretty ropey, has continued to be forked and forked and forked, and they actually had a really nice opportunity that they didn't really capitalize on as far as they could, to kind of go on to provide consultancy for other people wanting to implement this stuff, and to provide sanity checking and support for other people wanting to implement this stuff. Like in the early days, particularly some of the particularly the second generation, I'm not going to name names, the second generation proof of stake coins who came out forking the Peercoin code base from a time when they weren't even really happy with that code base. So these coins almost all came out 2013, 2014, but as recently as 2017. Don't think you heard that.
No.
And really, Peercoin could have done a much better job of preventing damage to the whole concept of proof of stake, which had some major reputation hits from the failures in these other implementations of it, not even in their own one. So I kind of regard it as, hey, in a few years, like a lot of coins are going to have Hive, but we're the OG Hive implementers, and we're stoked to see people innovate on top of our work, and we're absolutely going to help them. So I think you've got to have a lot of respect downstream. I mean, anybody who wants to take something that you've built and build something on top of it, like that is very gratifying.
it's got to be. And you've got to just love how this community has come together, and we're still holding true, and now we have Ring. So
So Ring came from a couple of realizations, really. One that is, and I'll be brutally honest. Sorry, DC, go.
Sorry to interrupt. I don't want to say it's a spoiler, but it looks like we have more to discuss with you than it is for today. So let's keep Ring for, I don't know, maybe
that's fine with me. Like, I'm more than happy to do another Friday interview, and we can compartmentalize it a bit more if you like that idea. I really I have to say a big thanks to you guys for keeping something going. I know that we haven't had a Saturday Night Hive for the last month, and doing the Friday show is not only absolutely lovely of you to leave Saturday free for when Saturday Night Hives crop up, but also really, I think, has kept the community together, from what I hear. So
it was actually, it wasn't about that Saturday Night Hive stopped. I didn't actually realize that, but I got bored on Friday. Friday is my going out day. It's when I meet people, and we go to clubs and everything. And so I was like, okay, I told my people, okay, I'm on Twitch, I'm on Discord. I want music. So
yeah, like, hey kids, let's do the show right here.
Yeah, that was it, and that's why I started to do. Okay, let's do open turntable, because Groove is capable for everybody. So that's how it started.
Nice. Very cool. Very cool.
But yeah, I have to thank you. You were saying?
No, I was just saying, yeah, I think that's a good idea. We'll do a separate Ring one, a Ring focused one next week, if you like, or at your availability.
I would love that. If next week works for you, I'm all over.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, good. And that'll give me a chance to process here. Demo scene, pirate radio, and a metal band background.
I mean, I could go. There's many geeky hobbies, basically. There's a lot of them. I need to cast my eye around to remember more, to be honest.
You could say geeky hobbies. You could also say a Renaissance man of the 21st century. That's how I look.
Your words, not mine.
Fair enough.
Who said metal band is geeky? I mean, come on. I'm totally afraid of an interview of me. I mean,
metal goes back to my childhood, and so I know that I'm in something good if it has a foundation of metal music.
You have to read Fargo Rock City. Yeah, I read it in a hotel when I was on the road, and I had Spotify, and every chapter I was reading about, like, LA Guns or Guns N' Roses or AC/DC or something. I just put on the music, and I continued reading. It was like taking me back into the days.
It's almost virtual reality. If they could create a virtual reality where you're on stage.
Yeah, but the funny thing was, back in the days, I was alternative. I was like all the Sonic Youth and Bad Religion and everything. I wasn't into that rock stuff. But later on, you're like, hey, you heard it in the background, and it takes you back to memory lane. That's the point.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like, I can enjoy the same stuff, like, when it's something that I wasn't even. I mean, honestly, Utah Saints is a good example of this. Like, in the day, I would have groaned if you put that on, because yeah, I mean, I didn't.
I mean,
but now I can listen to
Tanner, if I put on now Susie and the Banshees, yeah, I mean, probably, I don't know.
Oh, well, that would take me right back to. Actually, I mean, it was a very late in the career gig, but I saw Susie and the Banshees in Oh, I believe it was a Heineken-sponsored free festival in Roundhay Park in Leeds in 1995. But what I remember more than Susie and the Banshees from that was Pop Willie itself.
That
And
was
Back
that
to
was
the Planet.
pretty
Oh
late.
my
That
days.
was.
Yeah, oh yeah, I
think
know. I mean, it was yeah.
I studied 89 or something.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, milking the greatest hits by then, well and truly. But you know, it's still a notch for the bedpost, if you will.
Yeah.
Wow.
So Matt, that leads me on to a format suggestion for your show. You could what you could do. I think it's BBC. Is it Radio 4? Desert Island Discs. So it's a chat show, much like this one, but to break the chat up a little bit, the guest chooses 3 desert island discs, like 3 tracks that they would take if they could only take 3 songs to a desert island, and gives a little bit of background about why they're important to the guest, and then you play them. Bosh. So there you go. It gives you an extra like 20 minutes or so of content. Job's a good one.
They are also on on YouTube, these BBC something, because I was Googling something and I found some songs, and there was a BBC One radio show, and I was like, what the fuck am I?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah,
so let's do this for next week. Do you want to come up with your 3 desert island discs?
It's
let
like
us know during the week.
Mind.
It's like you programmed me to say what I was supposed to.
Neurolinguistic programming, baby.
So subtle, but it worked. Can't argue with results. So if you let us know during the week, I'll talk to my technical people and we'll get those songs up.
I'll have my producer talk to your producer.
Excellent. See if they can chat.
That means what? We're going through Groove, or we're going to Twitch?
It means Angel's going to get a phone call from an unintelligible Glaswegian, and he'll just have to do the best he can.
An unintelligible Glaswegian.
Yeah, you know my Saturday Night Hive producer James. I know there's a lot of James fans out there. I'm sure there's a couple on.
I'm a huge James fan, and I barely found out about him 2 years ago.
No. I mean, I don't mean the band James. Like, oh, sit down. No, my Glaswegian, very heavy Scots accent co-producer.
You're unintelligible. I apologize. I left the wrong conclusion. Please.
No problem.
So what is James? James will arrange things. I won't understand him, but
that's exactly, yeah, you won't have a clue, but you'll get there in the end.
I love it. So you'll let us know the discs and we'll play them.
Sure thing.
Well, do you have anything else to say? I got to say, this has been an extreme honor. Thank you so much for your time. Anything else you want to say today to
It's an absolute pleasure, man. It's been thrilling to join you. What are your new, because I know everybody's cultivating them. Let me hear some of your lockdown hobbies that have developed since the start of quarantine. What are you doing that you would never have dreamed of doing a couple of months ago, Matt? You go for a change.
Wow, I'm caught short. I'm jogging with my 2 oldest daughters. I have a 12-year-old and a 10-year-old, and we're spending time outside with the guinea pig. Now, the other thing that I wouldn't have dreamed of doing that we're doing now is we're hiking as a family. We live here in Utah near the mountains, and we're hiking in ways that I had hoped we could someday do, but now we're doing. It's not weird and exotic.
Oh, and I just Googled the scenery as well. Wow, man, those are some nice looking mountains. I'm looking at
Mount
Tibanogus. That's the exact one I was about to. Wow, that's gorgeous. Is it always covered in snow, or do they only take pictures when it's covered in snow?
Yeah, only the pictures when it's covered in snow. It's mostly, you can hike it pretty much July and August, and I hike it every year. It's elevation from 4,000 to about 11.
It just looks incredibly exotic to me, in the same way that maybe Scotland seems to you. I don't know, but yeah, that's just wow.
I hear bagpipes and
oh, honestly, dude, like sometimes I have to interrupt team meetings because there's a bagpiper outside my window. I wish I was joking. I really do.
Oh God.
Rogue bagpipers. That's great. Are there metal bagpipers? Have you heard of the Dropkick Murphys? I know.
Oh yes, the Dropkick Murphys.
They're
particularly
they're
nice
the
cover
new
of,
Pokes. They're the new
Master of the Irish
Pokes.
Rovers. Yeah, in many ways. Although, like,
I love them.
oh God, yeah. Now you're talking. Yeah, I was in punk bands before I was in metal bands. That's a whole different.
Honestly, I mean, I'm going to stick with Renaissance man of the 21st century.
Do you want to see?
Yeah.
Do you want to see? No, I couldn't. No, never mind. Next topic.
Well, this is great. I know the devil's breathing down my neck here. We're coming up on our turntable time.
No,
So,
it's
Desert
all
Island.
good. It's all good. It's all good. It's all good.
Well, good. What are some new hobbies that you have?
Right at the moment, if you look at the general, it says Saturday Night Hive. If you have premium, you can continue. We don't have premium. So the groove list is lost. Just all the cute songs.
Somebody needs to put another 50 cents in.
Feel free, and besides, how do you like my microphone?
I love your
really
microphone,
nice.
But if I could make a suggestion, why can't we pay LCC to make it?
Yeah, I was about to say that. Yeah, exactly. We need a tipsy integration on that.
Brilliant.
Especially on Amazon for ordering my microphone.
You do sound especially evil tonight, Devil.
Actually, probably I'm okay. Officially, I'm drunk, probably, because today I filed for. I finished the papers all to get a new business, and the funny thing is, I closed the last business 10 days ago, and today I filed for a new business. Shocking.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah, it was funny. I was calling some support team, all the government and the chambers, and it was like after the third email, and they called me back, or I called them. I called them the third time. Yeah, exactly. And they were like, hello, Mr. because they already knew me. It was funny. At these times, at Corona, nobody's building up a business. But I said, hey, I have a customer with a service contract. I want the money.
Well, congratulations, all the best. I do have one quick thing to say before we go. Fred sent me a quick note. Just said from last week, the Community Joint Project Board is now operational. It's a super creative space. I've been there a couple times. Highly recommend it to anyone here in the community with interest there. Reach out to Fred and he'll connect you. Do I need to say anything else?
I would say now, if you're wondering what is it about all this community stuff and sharing thing, it's just a board. It's a Trello board, and it's if you have an idea for some, it's not about even business opportunity. It's if you have an idea how to make LCC more popular to some publicity, just join it. Just spread out the word.
You know, I got to say here, it's
just quickly. Sorry, guys. Thank you, Matt, for introducing that. I just want to say that in 4 days, what we've brought together on this board has just been fantastic and motivational. Thanks for the guys for joining and stepping up to add to this. The ideas are coming together. Just for anybody who wasn't here last week, the topic of the meeting was around developing interest in the community to step up and help us to develop any ideas that they may have. And this board has been created to capture those ideas and to develop them, assign people to work with them. But it's a fantastic initiative, and I just want to thank people for stepping up in the last week or so. It's very important.
I can just add, it's constantly amazing how much talent is hanging around here, you know, and a lot of it gets eventually rewarded. All of our mods, a fine percentage of the core team, you know, are people elevated from the ranks. And we're an incredibly diverse, incredibly multidisciplinary team. And you know, I'm including every one of you and everybody in the community in that definition of team. So,
and I took the fast lane.
It's because you were going so fast on the on-ramp, probably is what happened there. That the traffic just had to move over. But you know, that can happen for anybody. Like, there's a lot of people with exceptional skills, and they are recognized and welcomed. And if you feel that you have something to offer that we're not noticing or recognizing, then, you know, please do stick your hand in the air. We're, as I say, like, I really think we're one of the friendliest communities, and I like to think the most approachable teams.
And Tanner, as you know, Audi TT drivers always take the fast lane.
Oh, baby. Well, mine is the Tango wagon is currently a little poorly, to be honest, but she'll be up and running soon, I'm confident.
I'm still running on winter tires, and we got 26 degrees Celsius. It's like, and changing. I got an appointment for mid-June. It's gonna be funny. Gotta rub up some tires. Some yeah.
Yeah, put some stress on the old Haldex unit there, man. On the winters year round. So you need to watch that. All right, we're not going off in petrol headland. Evermatt.
Insider jokes.
Yeah, I'm completely lost, but I do, you know, petrol land does sound like a sweet.
You don't have a launch control?
Okay, next.
Metaphorically.
Okay, guys.
Well, good times. Thank you both. This was wonderful. Highlight of my day, of my week.
Oh, mine too. Believe it. Honestly, it's been really fun. Thank you so much, and we'll do it again then. Just let me know if you want to do it next week or the week after, or if you want to leave it a bit and interview somebody else and get me in for another episode. But I'm really up for the Desert Island Discs. We'll definitely.
Well, I was going to say where we got this going. Let's just roll with it. Why don't we say next Friday, and we'll do the Desert Island Disc next Friday.
It's a date, baby.
Awesome. I'll talk to you then. Have a great night
and yourself, sir. Can I drop an exclusive right here? It's only a little one, but I think we can give you a Saturday Night Hive tomorrow. We'll see what we can do.
Whoop, whoop.
Awesome.
Nice.
And you wake up in the morning with the hangover.
Oh God, you know it.
That's what's happening tomorrow for me anyway.
There is no tomorrow, devil.
Did I get bacon and eggs? I hope I did.
Sorry to interrupt. Just I was listening in the background, Tanner. Don't worry, whatever your hangover will be tomorrow, I have that note in Notepad++. So I'm gonna remind you about the Saturday Night Hive tomorrow. I mean today already, 6 minutes after.
Nice. That's fine. Wait until I've had coffee, and then I'll be absolutely delighted. I actually have a text file on my desktop with a list of tunes for the next one. So let's make it tomorrow. It's been too long. Sunita, Hannah, you okay?
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Devil, and thanks, Tanner, for your time. It's very appreciated, guys.
Sunita, you're
Thank you.
Okay, good. All right, sorry, that was an aside. Thank you so much, and good night, gents and ladies.